Lucrecia tonight.
I still hope, against all odds, that Florencia will show up.
Did you know that disease and accidents occur suddenly and when least expected? If you have a medical insurance policy, it gives you peace of mind knowing that your medical expenses will be catered for by insurer up to your policy limit. Now you know. IRA, promoting insurance, protecting the insured.
Tuko on air.
Shambiwa.
Good morning.
Wow, good morning.
Habari yao?
Nzuri.
Come on, you started off with me yesterday.
Mumelala salama?
Tumelala salama.
Mumeamuka salama?
Tuko sawa. Ukisikia ni good morning.
Regina wapi shangwe na nderemo? Today, you did not wake up and choose violence.
Kabisa.
No.
I'm a
peace.
Choose violence today.
You choose peace all the way.
All day, every day.
Yes.
Good morning from wherever you're watching us from. It is always a pleasure to have you with us this and every day between Monday and Thursday. We thoroughly appreciate you for always choosing to start your morning with us. My name is Jane Wamboi, and today being a day that so many people have been looking forward to, more so because of the arrival of Tanzania's President, Her Excellency Samia Suluhu. She will be coming into the country for a two-day state visit, courtesy of an invitation from our president. We will be having a conversation around her presidency with one of the former members of parliament in Tanzania and also one of the former UN Habitat directors, Professor Anna, who will be joining us to just tell us more a bit about how her legacy has been getting to where she is today and what even we as an East African community can expect during her term as she sees through the remainder of the late Magufuli's term up until 2025. So that conversation will be coming up in not too long. Great.
Indeed, the 4th of May, we are happy, as I say, well, Taurians are said to be steady. They're said also to be stubborn. You're wondering what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, you know, Taurus, the month of, if you were born between April 20th and May 20th, you happen to have the zodiac sign that is a Taurus, or rather what we refer to as the bull. Yes, so some of the characteristics in my latest reading around, you know, Taurus and Taurian people, they say they're said to be stubborn, but they're very loyal. And because the bull is run, or rather rules, by the goddess Venus, and we know the goddess Venus is supposed to be the goddess of love, so they're also romantics. They're steady and they they're forward-looking, and for them, relationships are long-term. I just thought maybe let's share a little bit about your stars. It's not my star sign. I'm a Virgo, so we'll be talking about Virgo soon enough.
Hey, hapo. Situation kwa ground.
Tricky.
Hapo umesema romantic. Aga long term.
But that's what the zodiac sign says. That Taurians.
What it says and what is
Long term, so meaning they are committed. What you're saying is that they are committed.
They are committed, they're into long term, and they're also romantic.
Cool.
At April and which? April and May.
Let me not jump the gun because my son happens to be in that category, and I will use him to fulfill what his zodiac sign says.
That he needs to be steady on course.
And all we can say today, May the 4th be with you.
Yeah.
May the 4th be with you.
You saw what I did there?
Indeed,
Yeah, you have really chosen peace today.
I have chosen peace.
We are very peaceful and talking about stories that have been making headlines. Now, perception seems to be deep-rooted as Justice Shitembwe claims now only a miracle can redeem the judiciary from perceived corruption. This is in regard to the ongoing Supreme Court judge interviews that are getting into day 2 today. And in his defense, Treasury CS Okur-Yatani says, you said funded HIV drugs were unprocedural, or rather unprocedurally imported, hence the crisis. There's been a shortage crisis, and Kenyans have been, putting to task Treasury, saying that it is quite unfeeling because the people who really rely on the drugs. Now, Kenya's COVID-19 positivity rate remains low at below 10%. These are some of the stories that have been making headlines, including that, yes, we will be having the 6th president of the United Republic of Tanzania, Samia Suluhu, here in the country. And she is said, in a part of her itinerary, she will be addressing Parliament. Remember the last time that another foreign president addressed a Parliament, and that happened to be Uhuru Kenyatta in 2015 in Uganda. We'll be keeping tabs on that and just highlighting what indeed the visit of Samia Suluhu Hassan of Tanzania means for Kenya, especially as far as trade is concerned. Remember, relations between Tanzania and Kenya have been said to be sporadic at best. Good morning once again. I'm Regina Manyara.
Hey.
Mapeka fikita.
Mapeka kabisa. All right, we have got a busy day ahead, of course, when wanasema mgeni njo wenye Japone. So how is it going to pan out the next 2 days now that we have got the visiting president of Tanzania in the country? But that is not all. We also woke up to some news that Bill Gates and Melinda Gates have just decided to say adios, baby.
Manzi?
After 27 years of marriage. Let me give you a tweet here. After a great deal of thought and a lot of work on our relationship, we have made the decision to end our marriage. Over the last 27 years, we have raised 3 incredible children and built a foundation that works all over the world to enable all people to lead healthy, productive lives. We continue to share a belief in that mission and will continue our work together at the foundation. But we no longer believe we can grow together as a couple in this next phase of our lives. We ask for space and privacy for our family as we begin to navigate this new life. Melinda Gates and Bill Gates. I will not ask this question right now, but I will ask you ladies later on. 27 years of marriage, with all the wealth under the sun that you can ever talk about, and 27 years later they say, this relationship cannot work, this marriage cannot work, and therefore we need space. So what is this thing that we all need in a marriage? That I will ask you later on, and even you, our viewer, you can share. Talk to us and let us know what matters to you. But before then, because it's going to be a busy day and we have to know how the traffic is going to look like today, the president is coming and you know Mombasa Road is going to be a mess. Let me toss it to Doreen to give us a look on how things are going to be. Doreen.
Right, so let's just actually jump right into it this morning, very quickly, to see what is happening when it comes to the roads in terms of traffic. And actually today, Tuesday, we're focusing in Mombasa City. Now, this is actually why this is our focus this morning. A section of the Makupa Causeway, or the Makupa Bridge there, which had been closed for 2 days between March 15th and March 16th of this year. And this was for the purpose of this bridge. Just somewhere at the center there on your screen, we have that particular bridge there. This is actually why it was closed, because they wanted to demolish this particular bridge and construct a new one. It's actually going to be a dual bridge, falling there past that particular place. What you're seeing was actually constructed in 1920. By the British, and for a very long time it has resulted to the heavy kind of traffic, just from what you're spotting on your screen there, a lot of air pollution around this specific area. So that is what they want to do away with, and also try to ensure that at least they ease the traffic flow around this specific place. Like I mentioned, it's going to be a 4.5 billion bridge, and when the construction begins, it is expected to end in 2022. So again, it simply means that this also becomes one of those areas of interest interest to try and see how the particular process will be coming along and how altogether it will be affecting the traffic flow, because this is actually how the normal situation oftentimes looks like, and the construction hasn't really quite begun yet per se, in as much as it was commissioned by the president in December of 2020. That was last year there. So this is how the place looks like, one of those busy areas, and this is again why this particular bridge will be constructed for the traffic flow and also to do away with the old air pollution around this specific area. So before we go into further details about this bridge and how instrumental it is, just a very quick look on the traffic flow, and this is especially around that area. So this is around that Makupa roundabout there. This is how it is looking like this morning in terms of traffic. Green all through, very interesting. There's no any kind of traffic around the entire roundabout also, given the fact that it is one of those busy roundabouts. And far more of what we've seen is that any area where there's those major roundabouts, given the fact that it branches off, could be either major roads or sleep roads, just like this specific one, especially in this early morning hour, I would expect to see that heavy kind of traffic, most especially either the maroon or the red color, which just indicates that. But clearly, as of now, along this particular roundabout, which is our focus this morning, is just green all through as you get to branch off to Tomboya Road there, one of those sleep roads there, as well as the Mombasa Road on the other side. And again, also coming still through Mombasa Road, as well as Lumumba Road. In fact, on all these major roads that get to branch off from this particular roundabout, as well as the sleep roads, they are just a smooth sailing, no traffic at all, green all through. The beauty is that this is actually on both lanes on all of these roads that I'm just mentioning, as well as that Tudor Road on that particular section, where it just looks like it's beginning to slightly build up is along the Mombasa Road. As you leave the Makupa roundabout there, heading to the other side of Kibarani, that is just where it begins to slightly build up. And also around Kibarani, there's been a lot of ongoing roadworks in terms of also that construction of the bridge there. So that is just where it begins to slightly build up, but altogether manageable kind of traffic. And this is specific to only that one lane. As you leave the areas around Kibarani, coming still through Mombasa Road before you get to branch off to Tudor and Makupa roundabout there. On the other section, on the other side, as you head over to those areas which I'm just mentioning, green all through, no traffic at all. Clearly also it means I would not need to look at any alternative routes, at least as of now. And this is the road situation on this specific area, which is our focus this morning. This is the Makupa bridge. Try to see how all this construction process is coming along and how altogether it will be affecting traffic on this specific area.
Good morning once again. Now let's just quickly go through what stories have been making headlines in the last 24 hours. We very well know that Samia Suluhu Hassan, the president of Tanzania, will be here in the next few hours for a two-day visit. Some of the issues that are going to be highlighted include, trade relations, as well as matters of just diplomacy. Remember, Kenya, Tanzania, our relations have been termed as sporadic at best. We'll be keeping tabs on that. And now, looking at our local political scene, is that the header that Standard has chosen to go with is that guns are trained on Orengo as ODM battles explode. Now, a group of Raila ODM insiders has turned its guns on Maverick as CIS Senator James Orengo, accusing him of disloyalty. But is Orengo disloyal, or is this a change of tact within the ODM camp? Talking about matters of education, they've also found themselves on the front page of the Standard this morning, with a fresh storm brewing over the KCP results. Now, private schools mount pressure on the Kenya National Examinations Council to explain the recent scores which they believe disadvantaged their learners. We also what happened there. Public schools actually trounced private schools over the last KCP results. We're still awaiting the KCSE results. So this might just be, one of those things that the private sector is saying, no, private schools are saying something must have happened and disadvantages them. Then matters of also politics. Here, matters of UDA. Now, Uhuru's men are apparently split over push to cut UDA ties. Now we'll be giving you this and so much more. And I just want to finish my end of things in as far as what we have captured for you from the Standard and also highlighted from the news desk. This is a quote by Jubilee Secretary General Raphael Tuju that says, "This is to request that you take note of the content of this letter and to put on record our revocation of the provisional coalition agreement in your offices." That is dated May 6th, 2018. Victor, you're better placed to tell us what is happening as far as politics is concerned. Over to you.
Absolutely. And on the front page of the Star newspaper, the men behind DP Ruto's 2022 presidential bid. We have them here on the front page of the Star. Quickly, let me give you the rundown. A look inside the kitchen cabinet reveals well-known names. That is, one of them is Barack Muluka, who is a media expert. David Ndi, who is an economist. Juguna Ndungu, who is also an economist. Davis Chirchir, ICT expert. We have got Rafael Munavu, academician, as well as Larry Gumbe, who is also a political expert. Still on the front page of the Star, of course, we have an elaborate plan to honor visiting Tanzania President Suluhu, who is jetting into the country today. And then, still on the Star, big four funds shrink as COVID hits Uhuru projects. That is also highlighted on the Star. And then there is also an interesting story here. Magistrate recuses self after an affair with plaintiff. Just briefly. Now, when two magistrates allegedly are having an affair and one of them is hearing the other's case for divorce from her lawyer's husband, what happens? Recusal. Simple as such. So that's happening in Eldoret, where it's just an entanglement of lawyers and plaintiffs and all that. That is just a brief on what's happening on the Star newspaper as far as that is concerned. And we are going to give you more details. Today we have an amazing and an intact show. So it's going to be fire. Stick around. Jen.
Right. Just before Jen picks it up, a brief look on how the PD looks like. Right now, KCC examiners are complaining over poor working conditions. So which working conditions are this, given the fact that they are still marking the KCSE exams? Away from that, coming to matters politics now, MPs brace themselves for BBI debate, and this is either to amend or not, and that is a $6 million question as the Senate and National Assembly reconvene. Still, that question of the 70 new constituencies is becoming one of the biggest tussle between these two houses. And also, in as much as yesterday it was World Press Freedom Day, journalists in Kisii town now are calling for the improvement, to improve rather the pay of journalists, for journalists in that particular area. Also just calling on the government to ensure that they give priority of COVID-19 vaccination to improve, also to improve working conditions for these members of the Fourth Estate. And yes, a lot has been said concerning the two-day visit of Tanzanian President, that is Samia Suluhu, with much concern concerning the trade ties between these two countries, and also this tiff that has been ongoing for a long time, which was just heightened by COVID-19 situation and how the two countries were dealing with it. Womboy.
Absolutely. Before we get started with the day's discussion, let's just get to have a quick look at what the front page of the Daily Nation is looking like this morning. Not too busy, just three stories at the top there is in regards to Yetani's budget. It's now emerging that bread to cost more in Yetani's budget as he seeks to get unfettered power when it comes to his ability to set the VAT and does not want his rates to have to go through the members of parliament. And then on the other side, there's conversations around the fact that this will be denying the taxpayers a right to representation by the members of parliament. You can check that out on the dailies this morning. There is a PC in regards to how the curfew led to the death of a 4-month-old sick baby who was being transported, or rather was being transferred to the Kisii Teaching and Referral Hospital. But it is said that some police officers had put up a roadblock because it was past curfew hours and the baby succumbed due to lung complications. Coming to some bit of politics is that the power struggle in Raila camp continues to unfold as he tries to review those that are in his inner circle, quote unquote, as has been put here, because he's now facing a tough test as his most senior and trusted foot soldiers are fighting to get his attention amid reports that he is reviewing his inner circle. That is what is happening on Some Politics. And now finally on the big grid here on the front page of the Daily Nation, the arrival of Her Excellency Samia Suluhu. She is expected to jet into the country on these early hours of the morning for a 2-day state visit, courtesy of an invitation from our president, His Excellency Kenyatta, following which they are expected to address a number of issues. Key among them revolve around trade, tourism, and of course people-to-people relations. But then again, she is the 6th president of the United Republic of Tanzania. She became president following the death of the late Magufuli, and he was just fresh into his term. She will be sitting through until the end of this term as the president of Tanzania. But before she became president, what was her leadership like? And now that she is president, what is her leadership like? That is a conversation that we are seeking to have and understand, you know, what are the challenges that she is experiencing. We did have experts come out to say that she will be having a lot of resistance, quote unquote, from the late Magufuli's allies as they try to, you know, shape her decision making and agenda in line with what Magufuli had already set forth. But to help us better understand how things are moving about in Tanzania, this morning we are joined by Professor Tibaijuka, live from Tanzania. She is the former executive director of UN Habitat, as well as a former member of parliament of Muleba South in Tanzania. Good morning, Professor. How are you doing today?
Well, good morning. I'm doing fine, Jen.
Karibu sana to Good Morning Kenya.
Asante sana.
Now, we just want to understand, you know, from your experience having interacted and worked with Her Excellency Samia Suluhu from back in the day up until now that she is president, we just want to understand, you know, her leadership style, because we have seen so many experts come out to compare her leadership styles with that of the late Magufuli. But from where you sit, since she assumed office as the president of Tanzania, how has the reception been like from the greater population, the people of Tanzania?
Well, Jen, first of all, as you can imagine, Tanzania remains a grieving nation because we lost our president Magufuli, but then Vice President Samia Suluhu Hassan took over, as you have noted, and we are very grateful because it was a very smooth transition. Like her personality, she's a very calm, very cool individual, strategic and focused. So the reception in the country here, I must say, is quite jubilant.
Mm-hmm. Now, looking at also critics who are saying that maybe as a republic and also the East African community, maybe we were not ready for a female president. Is this something that has in one way or the other presented itself?
Jane, I think that those are views, but actually Samia Suluhu Hassan has been our vice president for the past 5 years, as you said, and she was going into the second term with the late President Magufuli. So if you have a female vice president, then a vice president is always a president in waiting. So really, we are used to her leadership style. She was already very active as a vice president, and Tanzanian political system is actually quite stable within the party structures of CCM. So here it is all high expectations, a change of guard, a peaceful one, I must say, and a very hopeful one, ushering in a female touch of things.
Absolutely. I see how you say that with such pride. But I like the fact that you have mentioned her leadership style, given she was vice president. And maybe you could also help us understand, you know, just characterize for us her leadership style, because we have seen so many people comparing how Magufuli was running the country and how they expect her to do so. So how would you characterize her leadership style?
Well, I had the opportunity to work with her in cabinet during the Kikwete administration, when I was Minister for Lands and she was a Minister for Constitutional, for Union Affairs with Zanzibar, because she's from Zanzibar. And I must say that watching her at close range, I could see how she acts tactfully, carefully, but the most enchanting thing, she's a very conciliatory personality. She brings everybody on the table. Her docket was quite a tough one, resolving all these, some of the grievances between the union, which sometimes crop up. And the way she would solve that was always very diplomatic, very peaceful. She listens a lot and she interacts a lot. So really, people comparing her now, everybody's an individual. The late President Magufuli had his style. She was a vice president. A vice president, of course, is always in the background in any country, but she was doing that very well. But now, now that she's in charge of this country, I for one, and as a woman politician, I must say that we are looking up to see that now she will bring in a female touch. She will bring in a human touch to many things. And I am really hopeful, like many Tanzanians, to see great changes, and within the East African community to see cooperation. But Jenny, don't forget, we had a vice president a female vice president in Uganda for quite some time. We tend to forget these things, but they are not so new.
Absolutely, because, in as much as we are in the 21st century, we still live in a very patriarchal society, and you find women leaders are not as embraced or as supported, and especially politically speaking. But now, just looking back at the inauguration, we did see Her Excellency say that she will continue to implement the late Magufuli's vision as she also tries to chart her own path for the country and politically speaking. Is this something that has already started to take shape in the country from what you have seen, and also looking at the support from Magufuli's allies? How has that been playing out?
Yeah, well, as I said, that in the political landscape here is such that she took over as a vice president. We have a party manifesto. The election was just last year. And she was a running mate of President Magufuli. So she cannot just stand up and disown everything he was doing, because what he was doing it within the context of the party election manifesto. And she has said, and correctly so, that she's going to continue with that. But also she's bringing in her own vision and her own leadership style. And as I said, because of her nature, a very kind person, like I suppose many women we normally are. We manage differently, but also in that sense we add value. So you are not expecting to see dramatic changes, but I have seen her take corrective measures, opening up in terms, for example, of, opening up, because President Magufuli was more inward looking. But Samia Suluhu, you can see also from the way she's a foreign minister, Ambassador Liberata Mulamula and the others, you can see that she's looking also for international experience, for exposure. I'm really very happy that President Uhuru has already invited her, because Kenya, we are neighbors, we are brother and sister. Our fate is we are connected. We can't run away from that. So she's coming there to speak, to out. So really, she needs all the support she can get from inside Tanzania and outside Tanzania.
All right, and just looking at some of the issues that she has been very passionate about over the years, and now that she is president, do you feel, maybe you could also just help us understand, what are some of those issues that you feel will be part of her agenda as she continues to chart her way as the president and leader of Tanzania?
But her background, you see, she's originally, her background, she's a woman activist from Zanzibar. That speaks for itself, because to be at a very young age, at her early age, she was already a female activist. She's very much in gender rights, and she has already made statements that she's a female, but she's going to govern because she's a president. So she will be also moving really, the emancipation and women equality agenda. But in terms of the substantive agenda of developing the country, she has just addressed the Tanzanian parliament. And you see the tone of her speech. She was very long on agriculture, and rightly so, because this is an agricultural country. If you move agriculture, then you can transform this economy. She's also a woman. She knows how to manage households. She's concerned about household incomes. She's concerned about livelihoods. She's also concerned about trade and development. So really, we are hoping to look at a president who is focused on the household economy to transform it. And if you build the household economy, then of course you build the national economy. And as I said, doing this inside Tanzania, but also in terms of trade with our neighbors, but also with the rest of the world.
Right, and in also just trying to set the agenda, should we expect to see more female representatives and leaders, you know, just coming up in the political scene in Tanzania?
Well, I must say that, you see, now for me as a retired senior citizen, because that's what I am here in Tanzania after I have retired. I've retired from the UN. You guys in Kenya, you know me very well, my days in Kenya, but also 10 years. And now she's, in terms of age, for example, she's almost a generation, a political generation behind me. There's a 10 years difference between us. So yeah. I can say that in terms of the young women who are ready to join her, to join her government, take up different positions, Tanzania has come a long way. But also meritocracy is very important. Because as I said, she's a gender activist, and then merit becomes very important. We are not expecting to see promoting women simply because they are women, but because, like herself, they are competent, they are deserving, they are ready to serve, and they should not be discriminated against. Because the problem has always been that sometimes qualified women have been put aside. But if you look at our cabinet, for example, I have seen some very brilliant women ministers there continuing, some of them introduced into government. So we are really expecting that, and the mood here in Tanzania, the people are really very happy, because here it is Mama Samia everywhere. Yes. So people, both men and women, they expect to see great changes, and already the signs are very clear.
Fantastic. Continue staying with us. We want to take a very quick commercial break back here in studio, but do stay with us. We'll be getting back to this conversation in a bit. Remember, we are speaking with Professor Tibaijuka. She is the former Executive Director of UN Habitat, as well as a former Member of Parliament of Muleba South in Tanzania. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Je, umeomoka? Kama hujaomoka, kwenye QuickBin ndio mambo yote. Hapa tuko na fridge, kodi yake ni CM. Tuko na gas cooker, kodi yake ni CK. Tuko na TV, kodi yake ni TV. Tuko na simu aina ya Samsung ni SM, ama Oppo ni Oppo. My friend, mahali popote unanitizama, eka hizo kodi zake kisha utume kwa 4032353. 4032353, alafu utakuwa unaomoka na hizi bidhaa. Kumbuka, kwenye QuickBin ni bidhaa bora zaidi kwa bei ya chini kwa chini.
Kumchukulia kwa mfano ndani ya matatu.
Yaani mtu mzima na miaka zake, hizo miaka zote, mtu ajui kujua kuandika note, note tu peke yake. Kusoma kweli itasaidia.
Jana nini nakusumbua na nini?
Nauliza, you bwana?
Don't you dare insult me, okay?
Mama yetu.
Haya, kwani umepita? Nini wewe? Yaani wataka kumpiga? Huwezi mpiga, mtike nini?
Next on.
No, that is all. Protect your life if you wanna know.
Them kind of loving, you're not selling a shop. Yeah, are you are the man and your style.
And of all the places that I've ever been,
you know a lion can't live without a lioness. A fire can't start without a lick.
There is no prescription for me. She's the one, the only remedy.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
No,
No, of course not. If you're thinking that I'm pregnant, then you're mistaken.
Okay, don't get upset, Cons. I was only asking, nothing more.
I knew it. It's her all along. Your godmother and I were supposed to talk about Lucrecia tonight. We both came to the conclusion that Lucrecia had used Emma in order to get rid of you.
I want to be completely sincere with you. I still hope against all odds that Florencia will show up.
Welcome back. We are glad you are still with us. This is Good Morning Kenya. I am Jane Wamboi. In case you are just joining us, karibu tena sana to this conversation. We'd love to hear from you, so why don't you go ahead and talk to us using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter at KBC Channel 1. Ever remains to be our official station handle. My handle is at Jane Wamboi. Now, today we are expecting Her Excellency Samia Suluhu, the President of Tanzania, to jet into the country in the early hours of this morning. She is expected here in our country for a 2-day state visit. And ever since she assumed office as the President of Tanzania, a lot has been said, both good and bad. Both critics and experts have had their fair share of opinions to express in regards to her presidency. But today we are also here with Professor Tibaijuka, who is the former Executive Director at UN Habitat, as well as a former Member of Parliament of Muleba South in Tanzania, to also help us understand what her legacy has been and how we should also just look forward to how presidency will be for the remainder of the late Magufuli's term. Thank you for staying with us, Professor.
Thank you, Jen.
All right. Now, to get to some more information, and let's just start with what the critics are saying. And we are glad you are here to help us understand, to shed some light in one way or the other. But we have had critics who are saying that, she has a deep desire to sort of turn a new leaf when it comes to how Tanzania has been dealing with her neighbors, and especially looking at international relations. And critics are saying that she is going against the grain of what Magufuli had set in place. Is this something that you feel holds any water?
Well, in fact, I think, Jane, it is unfounded. Tanzania has always been very much a regional actor in the East African community, in SADC, on the African continent, beyond at the United Nations. So where is this coming from? And as I said, Tanzania is run by the Chama cha Mapinduzi, the political party, and the party has always been internationalist, both in Africa and beyond, the liberation struggle. So President Samia Suluhu is doing the right thing to reach out with our neighbors. I'm really pleased, as I said, she's coming to Kenya, starting with our brothers and sisters in Kenya, and she will definitely do more. Because there is the fact that President Magufuli had to do some things internally and was focusing on that has never meant that Tanzania is a socialist, is going it alone. Oh no, Tanzania is very much on the international and regional stage.
All right, and the thing that most people, or rather critics, are choosing to focus on is in regards to how the late Magufuli was handling conversations around COVID-19 in the country, conversations around press freedom, and also state visits, because, the last time we did have a head of state from Tanzania in Kenya was 5 years ago. So looking at how Her Excellency has been handling the situation, how would you like to reassure those who have just criticism to offer when it comes to how she's executing her leadership?
Jane, any successful leader moves on. You have to have your own vision and move on. I mean, let us face it. The late President Magufuli is gone before the Lord. He did his bit, he did his best. Now we have President Samia. So I feel that people who are lamenting about the past and what this other guy did, we should focus on what is she planning to do, what is she capable of doing. And I have told you that I know her, I worked with her in cabinet. She's very, very capable She's very much capable, and she has a lot of experience in politics, but also she worked for the World Food Program for many years in Zanzibar. She was coordinating that program. She has a lot of international exposure. She went to Manchester. She knows the world. You know, so now she has the chance, the responsibility. And she was vice president for 5 years under Magufuli, and she was the one covering international relations. I know, for example, she visited Kenya when she was vice president. Little wonder that she's coming back to Kenya as her first country outside Tanzania. So really, if there are any fears in Kenya, let me tell you that those are over. Regarding the COVID-19, I mean, Jane, Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, East Africa, we are really hopeful now that we are happy that the vaccine is now finally there, but as you know, we are the last on the line. So COVID-19, she has already made it very clear. In her maiden speech, she said she's going to put up a special committee to look at, the whole COVID-19 issue. But I must say that Tanzania has also been sort of getting bad press on COVID-19 than the reality on the ground in terms of the social, in terms of sanitizing, in terms of even getting the vaccines. If we finally get our shares, we are a middle-income country now, but we are still a least developed country by United Nations, criteria. So we need all the help we can get from neighbors, from the international community, and COVID-19 is serious. Tanzania has taken it seriously, but we also think outside the box. While we are waiting for these international vaccines, we must use our own local indigenous knowledge to survive. That is a survival strategy. That is denying that modern science, when it finally comes, it should find you still alive, so you have to do something. So I would like to say that these fears about COVID-19, I must say there has been a lot of propaganda and negative press than the reality on the ground.
And would you be in a position to maybe express confidence in the sense that under her leadership and looking at all the methods she's looking to help contain COVID-19 in the country, will she be able to sort of reset the clock on COVID-19? Just looking at what so many other countries have had to experience when it comes to COVID-19, with maybe a hard lockdown, the state of the economy, and getting to address concerns of small and middle-scale traders especially?
Yes, Jen, these hard lockdowns and things like that, the reality on the ground, even I can vote for the rest of Africa, and I know it very well. I was in Kenya for 10 years. I know these regions very well.
Yes.
But how can you lock up when people have a hand-to-mouth situation, when you have no capacity to distribute food to reach everybody? You cannot really have a hard lockdown. But in terms of taking caution measures, that is being done, and under President Samia, as I said, maybe the way you convey the message has not come out clearly. So that people in Tanzania, for example, social distancing is a must. And in terms of, if you want a hard lockdown, to lock down the economy, then you must have the capacity and capability to feed the poor. The people who get their daily food every day. Even in Kibera, if I try to, my friends in Kibera, I would like to salute them. I hope they are fine. I worked there for many years.
Now, if you say
you're going to lock down Kibera, you have to go there and distribute food. I don't know whether you have been doing that, but if you have not been doing that, then you are unfair on the people. Having said that, caution must be taken. And by the grace of God, the casualties are there. We are now scared about what is happening in India, for example. But in terms of the death toll from COVID-19, because of all these combination of measures, the modern ways and the traditional ways, we are where we are. And we are hoping now that the vaccines will come, that we shall not be isolated, we shall also get the vaccines, and we shall survive. Nobody is against science, but science has to find you still alive, Jen. If you sit down idly doing nothing, even science might find you a dead person. So COVID-19 is a priority, and it is her priority. President Samia has made it her priority. She's already putting up a committee, the Minister for Health, they're doing everything. We are trying to revive the count. You see now there's this thing about the count. Tanzania has about 60 million people now. Only one test center. How can you keep the count, if I may ask?
Very good question right there. Now, getting to this 2-day state visit that Her Excellency will be on as of today and tomorrow here in Kenya, Conversations will be around trade, tourism, and of course, majorly people-to-people relations. Let's just have a quick look at trade. There has been a lot of tension when it comes to border relations more so, but looking at these bilateral talks that are set to happen today and between today and tomorrow at State House, what are some of the benefits that you feel both countries are going to get from these talks that will be happening?
I am really very happy that they're going to be, the mission, the visit is focusing on trade issues, because that's the economy. As I said, she's very much focused on improving livelihoods in households. You cannot do that if people are not trading, people are not producing, if trade is not flowing and impaired. And, you know, occasionally there are these flips of tensions at the border. You hear this, you hear that from Kenya, from Tanzania, on both sides. I think that our two leaders, when they meet now, when President Samia meets President Uhuru, they can iron out all these differences. They are not in anybody's interest. And for example, recently there was a fracas with maize. People said that were aflatoxins. All of a sudden, maize from Tanzania was supposed to be poisonous. I said, but maize from Tanzania and maize from Kisii, what's the big difference? So I would really hope that within the East African Trade Protocol, we should now, this is the time now, to move on quickly, to remove the differences and to allow free trade, because free trade is finally in the interest of everybody. You see, Kenya, definitely you are more advanced, there's a relative advantage, but we are also quite well off in terms of natural resources, in terms of production potential. And united, we shall do much more. Africa is about uniting within our regional borders to promote trade and development.
Absolutely. And of course, we cannot talk about trade without having to link it to tourism, because it still stands to be one of the biggest sectors in both countries. And how do you think this bilateral talks between Her Excellency Samia and our President Kenyatta are going to benefit both countries, especially focusing on tourism, which is one of the sectors that have been heavily affected, at least from what we have seen here in Kenya? More so by COVID-19.
Yeah, trade is always in goods and services. Now you can look at trades in goods. I think actually has been very well. It has been moving on. Occasionally, as I said, if we iron out differences, some of them are cooked by parochial vested interests and mining trade, but also organizing businesses. In Tanzania here, I am right now speaking from Dar es Salaam. We have quite a vibrant Kenyan companies working here. We would also like to see reciprocity, to see vibrant Tanzanian-based companies also working in Nairobi, working in Mombasa and places. And as I said, bringing this COVID scare under control with care. And as I said, also, but being truthful about things. Also, we need to be truthful about the situation, and also realistically, what can we do? So I think that trade in goods is something that should really proceed without any hindrances. Now, there's still a question of trade in services. For example, in Kenya, some of the people trying to work in Tanzania, Kenyans trying to work in Tanzania, sometimes have met problems. Likewise, Tanzanians trying to get a job in Nairobi, there have been some discriminatory practices. I'm aware of the tricks. Either your CV will get lost or something like that. I think we must realize that we promote trade both in goods and in services, and in the end, it will be a win-win situation for everybody.
Absolutely. And that brings me to the next aspect, and this is people-to-people relations, and also still looking at the fact that tourism is right at the center of this people-to-people relation, and even just starting with the heads of state as part of the East African community. For somebody who might be looking from, you know, an aerial point of view, might not really understand why this people-to-people relations between the two countries is important. Maybe you could help just better paint a picture of why some of these aspects that revolve around people-to-people relations are key to, you know, building an East African community that is united.
Then it's about people. And as I said, our leaders. So this morning, by the grace of God, we are going to see President Uhuru hosting President Samia. And these are showing the way. So the next thing will be Jane, you and I at our level. So people-to-people diplomacy is very important and key, and is a basis for everything. But also we are the same people. Swahili, habari asubuhi. we speak the same language.
Yes.
So there's no barrier in terms of communication among our villagers. And if you look at our geography, if you look at the Maasai village, if you are a Maasai from Kenya, a Maasai from Tanzania, it's very difficult to separate. If you see, we are of common heritage, we have common background, and our fate is intricately linked. Anyone who thinks that you can build an island of prosperity in Kenya when there's poverty in Tanzania is just an illusion. Vice versa. You cannot have a prosperous Tanzania while Kenya is in misery, because your neighbors will also define your own existence. So people-to-people diplomacy is very important. Promoting peace, stability, promoting terrorism. 1998, we were the first victims. The double bombing of Nairobi and Dar es Salaam should never be forgotten. That shows you how close we are linked. That's why we must also make sure that our vijana, our young people, the youth, they interact, they understand each other, they share, they learn from each other. And I feel that this visit is historical because the leaders are setting the trend. They are telling us that, you guys, we should be talking to each other. So if they start at their level, and then it is for the rest of us to follow.
Absolutely. And now just moving to some international relations, from past experiences and from what we have seen, there have been some strained relations when it comes to how Tanzania has been operating, and especially within the East African regional bloc. And just looking at how, or rather what is cut ahead for Her Excellency when it comes to reaffirming and just ensuring that Tanzania is part of the East African community. How do you feel this trip is contributing towards reassuring the rest of the East African bloc that Tanzania has been and is part of this community and is willing to work together with the rest of the countries?
Yes. Well, my interpretation is, and I would like to repeat what I said earlier, that President Samia is actually there to clear if there were any misinterpretation of situations or misunderstanding. I think her maiden visit as president to Kenya, the neighboring country, the regional hub, says it all. And really, as I said, other than maybe you can also exaggerate differences. I was not aware of any serious tensions between the East African countries. I think our presidents were always working together. President Uhuru came here for the burial of President Magufuli, which is very much appreciated. And he spoke very well. He's also Mwananchi, observed for example, when there was the prayer time during his speech, you could see him saluting. You see, he's a Mwananchi here. He knows all the traditions, the rules, the customs. So let me say the following. Let us adopt a forward-looking positive agenda. And let us not hammer on the past. And if there were misunderstandings, they are now solved by destiny, by fate. President Samia is in charge of Tanzania, and Tanzania has never been an isolated country. From our founding president, Mwalimu Nyerere, he was a household name in Kenya, as much as Mzee Kenyatta, the founder, as much as. So you see, the East African community, we are working together. We have some regional projects, for example, with Uganda. We have the Uganda oil pipeline. We have other things. And I really expect now to see a scaling up of joint East African community investment activities, and really join in some areas, like in research, like this COVID-19 you're talking about. We need economies of scale, so we need to work together. We must also go back to the 1977 agenda in the old East African community and revive some of the East African community common services. Because you see, we are growing, we are improving, but let us face it, united we shall be stronger. So I really hope that during this meeting, they will also explore ways of having regional projects, how we cooperate in terms, of, for example, of the trading regime. Kenya is a middle-income country for some time. Kenya has an EPA with the European Union. Tanzania is the least developed countries. So there are some things to be sorted out, but amicably, with a positive mind, knowing that we are all linked and we have our common purpose. We must work for our common interest. And I think that this visit, for me, my interpretation, I believe this is what the presidents are trying to tell us.
Absolutely. And, also while, during this state visit, she will be having a session with the executive women in business here in Kenya. How does this also translate to encouraging more women to take up business opportunities in Tanzania, and how they can also work together cross-border, women especially?
Well, that is also wonderful because, as I said, President Samia Suluhu is, in fact, a golden opportunity, a God-sent opportunity. I must say that for me, on my part, I have been a female gender activist for all my life, and I was not expecting to see this turn of events, but that is fate. She's now in charge. I'm very happy she's also meeting the business women of Kenya. I know she's traveling with a business delegation from Tanzania, the Tanzania Private Sector Foundation. I think they are also, some of the people are joining her entourage there. And this is it. And for women, I am now a retired person, as I said, but I'm also encouraging young women here in Tanzania to form businesses, even big businesses. Why should women not only be confined to small businesses? Women should also go into the big businesses, organize internally and externally. And I am very happy that President Samia is also going to be talking to the Kenyan women, and I can appeal to them that those in a position to do so, they should also look at for women business partners in Tanzania, also in some big business, because I know Nairobi, I know that some women there are quite good and big in business.
Absolutely. Now, as we draw the conversation to a close, maybe for both Tanzanians and Kenyans, of course, this state visit, of course, will be aired live in Tanzania and both in Kenya. What will be your message to Tanzanians who would, be tuned into this meeting that will be happening later on in our State House here in Kenya? Your message to them, and maybe what are your expectations, very individual expectations from this visit, and your message to fellow Tanzanians?
Yeah. Well, for my fellow Tanzanians, I can say Watanzania wenzangu, wakati ndio huu sasa. This is the time. This is a time to see what our leader is doing. She's opening up, and she's encouraging us also now to, within the restrictions of COVID-19, to look for partners in Nairobi and beyond. And Nairobi is also linked to the rest of the world to do business. So I see this as an opportunity to be taken, to be grabbed, to forget whatever small difference there might have been in the past, and move forward and grab the moment, take advantage and solve our problems. She's very much also on health. Social services are very important because usually as women, the healthcare sector, I have seen that she's giving priority to make sure that not only COVID-19, but we must also solve the other challenges of the health sector. And I have heard her declare she's aiming at universal, health insurance, for example. Not an easy thing for a poor country like Tanzania, but at least where there is will, there is way. So this is a time for positive thinking, for asserting ourselves, and for partnership.
Absolutely. Now, there is a question that has come in here. I know you had touched on your personal expectations of this visit, but for the benefit of our viewers this morning, there's one Evans who is asking, what are some of your expectations from this visit? Maybe you could take that again for our viewer this morning.
Well, at the risk of repeating myself,
yes.
My expectation is, first of all, the event of itself is already setting the tone of where we are going, working together. And I must, as you know, I also know President Uhuru very well. When he was in Dar es Salaam 2014, I even was hosting him as Minister for Lands, and I escorted him all the way to Namanga. So I also know that is a very welcoming personality, very warm and very sincere, friendly. And friendship is also the basis for economic development. So my message is that let us grab the moment. This is an opportunity from God. We must take advantage of it and give both leaders our support.
There you have it. That goes out to you, Evans, who had a question in regards to your expectations. We must all give our leaders the support that they need to unite both countries even more as we move forward as an East African community. We have been speaking with Professor Tibaijuka. She is the former executive director at the UN Habitat and also a former member of parliament, of Muleba South in Tanzania. Thank you so much for making time to be with us this morning.
Thank you.
All right. Once again, remember, we are expecting Her Excellency Samia Suluhu to be jetting into the country this morning for a 2-day state visit, courtesy of an invite from President Kenyatta last month on the 10th. Among the raft of issues that they're going to be discussing, they will be revolving around trade, tourism, people-to-people relations, to just see how we can better build relations between the two East African countries and the larger East African community as well. Remember, this is her second trip since she assumed office as President of the United Republic of Tanzania. And of course, she will be well received here in Kenya. From what the communication that we have received is that she will be inspecting a guard of honor, and she'll also be honored with a 21-gun salute at State House, and later on a dinner courtesy of the state. We will be here to keep you updated on all that and so much more as it continues to unfold. Up next, people and politics.
Je, umeomoka? Kama hujaomoka, kwenye QuickBit ndio mambo yote. Hapa tuko na fridge, kodi yake ni CM. Tuko na gas cooker, kodi yake ni CK. Tuko na TV, kodi yake ni TV. Tuko na simu aina ya Samsung ni SM, ama Oppo ni Oppo. My friend, mahali popote unanitizama, eka hizo kodi zake kisha utume kwa 4032353. 4032353, alafu utakuwa unaomoka na hizi bidhaa. Kumbuka, kwenye QuickBit ni bidhaa bora zaidi kwa bei ya chini kwa chini.
Next on
God is all, protect your life if you wanna know.
Them kind of loving you, no Selena Sharp. Yeah, are you are the man and your style.
And of all the places that I've ever been,
you know a lion can't live without a lioness. A fire can't start without a lick.
There is no prescription for me. She's the one, the only remedy.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Not today! I am out to do justice today! I have to avenge Acharya Chanakya's death!
By wielding the sword act, His Majesty Ashok has committed a crime. And the punishment for that is death penalty.
Don't stop!
Ashok! Move aside, father!
Welcome back to the program. This is Good Morning Kenya, and it is time for our next traffic link-up segment. We are still looking at what is happening around in Mombasa City, rather. This is specifically around the Makupa roundabout. And just again, a quick look on why we are focusing on this particular road this morning. This is actually the reason as to why. One of those busy roads was commissioned by the president, and this is for the construction of that particular bridge in December of 2020. Now, just at the center there, this is actually that area which they will be reconstructing. This bridge was constructed in 1920s by the British. It has been in a very poor state. A lot of air pollution around this area just being caused because also of all these ongoing activities around the particular place. So what they will be doing is just expand the same bridge to making it a dual bridge. It will be costing around 4.5 billion Kenyan shillings. The process, as it set to begin will go up until 2022. And aside from that air pollution bit, they're also trying to reduce the traffic congestion along this specific area. This is actually how it normally looks like oftentimes. So this is a part of what they're trying to reduce in this specific area. Just the traffic flow, making it easy for vehicles, those are the car owners, as well as for the pedestrians there. So this is actually how it is looking like as of now. So why it was closed around March there for that particular 2 days was just to demolish the particular bridge before the entire construction begins. So right now, a very quick look on the traffic flow, try to see how it is looking like, if at all things have changed or is the same as how it was earlier on. You can remember that it was just a smooth sailing, there was no traffic at all throughout the entire roundabout, given the fact that it's also one of those busy roundabouts as it branches off to some major roads as well as slip roads. Now, this is the state of things. As of now, around the roundabout, still not that bad. In as much as, yes, traffic has begun to slightly build up, but at least altogether it's a manageable kind of traffic, and this is why we're sporting that orange color. And again, this is specific to one of those slip roads there as you get to branch off to Lumumba Road. Get a quick run through of how it branches off one of those major roundabouts. As I mentioned, gets to come all the way from Mombasa Road as you leave the areas around Kibarani, branching through the Makupa roundabout, heading again still through Mombasa Road, and this is in Mombasa City, gets to branch off as well to Lumumba Drive, and on the other side this is Tomboya Road. So clearly, just from the number of roads, the major as well as the slip roads that it gets to branches off, clearly just indicates that this is one of those busy roundabouts due to that. And when it comes to the traffic flow right now, still things are not that bad, which again, just as I mentioned, is really quite interesting because of those ongoing construction works there. Ultimately, you know, that will have resulted to that kind of heavy traffic, but as of now, this is still how it is looking like. Orange, orange in some sections of that particular roundabout, and on major parts, green all through, which just means there's no traffic moving at a very fast pace. Where there was traffic earlier on is on that section as you get to leave areas around Mombasa Road, all the way coming from Kibarani. Still is the same situation there. This is how it is looking like, and again, this is just specific to that area as you leave Kibarani coming through to Makupa. On the other side, it's green again, no traffic at all. This is how it was earlier on, this is still how it is. But again, ultimately, just around this particular section, we expect to see the kind of heavy traffic, especially the moment those construction works will begin at a very fast rate. But as of now, this is still how it is looking like. Still, as you leave the roundabout coming through to Tudor, one of those areas where there was still some ongoing road works, this is how it is looking like as of now. A bit different from how the other sections are looking like, because on this particular one, there's really that kind of heavy traffic moving at a very slow pace, and this is why we're seeing that red color also specific to that lane as you leave Tudor, coming all the way before you get to the Makupa roundabout, as well as you get to branch off to that particular section. On the other side of Ronald Ngala Road, still not that bad there. Green all through on that particular section. Some sections here and there where there's just a bit of a gridlock on that area. So this is again why it really becomes so necessary for that bridge to just be reconstructed because of its poor state. Look at the number of roads that get to branch off on this specific one, making it one of those busy areas as well as instrumental places in terms of also businesses around that particular place. So up and until that construction process gets to a complete in 2022, it only means that this becomes also one of those roads key in interest to try and see how all this process will be coming along and how it will altogether affect the traffic flow around the same area.
All right, so after getting that traffic update, whatever is going to affect you across the country, we are now on the next phase, and this is people and politics. My name is Victor Lowe, and let's get the conversation going. You have been watching this show from 7 a.m. and still continuing. Right now, we are going to shift gears to take you to what matters to you, people and politics, because politics run the world. Good morning once again. My name is Victor Lowe. With me in studio, I have Joseph Simeha, still in the village. Way back in Vihiga County. Good to see you, Joseph Simeha. Yeah, very good. And as well as Dr. David Masanga, all the way from the United Kingdom. You will have to tell us why you are not around Kenya or Africa. That's the reason. You will have to tell us later on in the program. And with me in studio, I have Dr. Joseph Rotich, who is also going to help me just to have a good talk. You know, let's have. Today it's Tuesday. As I always say, there's no gender balance here, but please just forgive me. It's just going to be an amazing show as always. Every Tuesday, we do it. Gentlemen, I have to give you a minute or two each. It was an amazing moment over on Saturday when President Kenyatta said that, you know what, all the barriers and the cessation were lifted. I believe this brought a lot of good fortune for almost everyone. Let me start with you, Simeha, from the village. Now that you are the one who is feeling the pinch so much, how did you receive this information and this message from the president on Saturday?
Thank you, Victor. First of all, I wasn't feeling any pinch. In fact, I told you this is bliss. Working from home in the village is bliss than being in the city. So I actually was happy that I wasn't locked up in the city. And even though, and then I have to acknowledge that, of course, it was a relief for many people. Honestly, people who need to connect as families, people who need to connect in terms of business and commerce to move and so on. I did see that from many people that it was a huge relief. And also it removes the rent seeking and extraction machine of the security services that, are supposed to be enforcing curfew for the benefit of citizens, but mostly using it for extraction and rent seeking. So that also was a relief for people, relief for businesses that operate in transport and generally just commerce. But for those of us who are working from home in outside of the city, of those urban areas, we're happy. It wasn't really having any adverse effect on us. And that's why, Victor, I'm not about to come over to the city. Whether you open or close, this is the best place to work from.
All right, okay. Good for you. People who've been working from home, you had some reprieve. Let me just come back to Dr. Rotich here in studio with me. Daktari, it was a good message and a good information to many Kenyans who've been saying, no, it was high time that it happened.
I think, Victor, yes. The announcement by His Excellency the President to unlock the 5 counties was, in fact, a sweet surprise to many Kenyans.
Yes.
Bearing in mind that Kenyans have really suffered a lot in terms of economic depression that they have experienced. You can remember, Victor, up to today as we are talking, over 2 million Kenyans have lost their jobs. And we have over, several informal sector.
Yes.
Has actually almost come to standstill, where majority of Kenyans are actually depending on.
Yeah.
And the pronouncement was well received. But I want to urge Kenyans that as far as the COVID-19 pandemic is concerned, we are not yet out of the woods.
Yeah.
The pandemic is still serious. It is still devastating. The rate of infection is still high. The death rate is still high. And that means that Kenyans must adhere to the Ministry of Health protocols if we have to succeed in this process.
Yes.
You find, Victor, that as we are talking today, as much as the unlocking has been done, even most of the hotels, as we saw it yesterday, they are yet to come to terms. They are yet to believe that it is, we are already free at last. But we need to urge Kenyans that we must be more careful than ever.
Yeah.
The unlockdown that has been made, or the freedom that we are enjoying now, does not mean that we already have the freedom against the pandemic.
The pandemic.
So it is my sincere request that we must adhere to the Ministry of Health protocols at all times, so that we can be able to grow our economy and at the same time safeguard our health.
Absolutely. Let me bring in Dr. Masanga here, all the way from United Kingdom. Dr. good morning and good to see you once again. Perhaps it was high time that the president made that pronouncement. It was Labor Day's kind of present to Kenyans. You know, the 5 counties locked, and you know Nairobi is the hub of business in Kenya. So it was long coming. What do you think?
It was long coming, yes, I agree. And I agree with my 3 colleagues.
Yes.
Dr. Rotich in the studio and Dr. Simenya. I agree. But we better go further. We better be careful. We better stand. It is you yourself. Begin with you yourself. And make sure you don't fall a victim. It is dangerous to fall a victim to this disease. This disease is not, and I repeat, is not visible, is invisible. If it is necessary, safeguard yourself out of it, keep safe, have your mask on when you go to the public. Up here, it is partial lockdown. Most of the places have opened. Even the nightclubs are being tested. People are going in a few numbers. By 21st of June, I think Britain will declare the disease an endemic. Endemic. It will be like malaria and other things, and cough and so on. So they have tried, they have vaccinated their people. We have all got vaccination. Let's stick there. And I want to take this opportunity, in summary, to thank President Uhuru Kenyatta, the Kenya government. People, let's give a credit. You have managed this thing very well. You have tried. You have tried compared to some African countries where I receive reports.
Yes.
You have done it. Your model was the best. It came out the best. And I hope the visiting president of Tanzania, and you can, although you can ask why I'm wearing, this is CCM color.
We'll get into the details of that shortly, Daktari. Just about the visiting President Suluhu, and of course, you have touched on something quite fundamental here, that President Kenyatta has really tried. But you see, let me just bring in Daktari, in terms of economy. Many people are not seeing it that way. It was like we were squeezed somehow in a box, but we are not looking at the positive sides of having the lockdown, the cessation, and all that. Well, it had an effect in the economy. But to accommodate Mwananchi, what were we supposed to look at?
I think, Victor, looking by the far we have come as a country.
Yes.
You can remember that when His Excellency the President took over after retired His Excellency Kibaki.
Yes.
Kibaki laid down a strong infrastructural foundation in this country. And it was a massive one. You talk about the Thika Highway and so many other investments that have been put in place. And when this government took over, they took up what I can say a huge and a mega approach in the infrastructural development that we can witness, highways, good roads, that we can witness today. And by that, Victor, you know, Kenyans don't see that translating into money, into cash in their pockets. Because these are long-term investment that this country has actually ventured to. I overread yesterday the minister, Tan, is saying that Kenya is going for 1.5 trillion shillings. And in the same amount again, that by the end of this financial year, Kenya is struggling to attain the target of 1.4 trillion. Already they have attained 1.2. So in that tone, Mr. Victor, we are on the right track. But you see, we have to complete the projects that are already in place.
Yes.
The huge projects that we see on our daily basis have to be complete. And this is part of the legacy of His Excellency the President. So by the end of his term, he's supposed to have realized all his dreams. By realizing these dreams, they require resources. So we must borrow, Mr. Victor. We only have to tell Kenyans, yes, as I gave an example last week, Victor, during the when what can I say? The most difficult time is yet to, yes, as we are realizing today, will be over very soon once we realize all these investments and they will be in use. So in this case, like I'm lucky, Victor, that I live in this century to be able to drive myself to Mombasa in less than 4 hours.
Yes.
Through the SGR. I'm lucky that I'm able to go up to Northeastern through a good road. I'm lucky that I can go to Western Kenya through a good road. In this century, if it was not the loan that this country took, we will not be having that advantage. So what we want to ask Kenyans is that the problem that we are facing now as a country is a temporary problem. Very soon we shall see good things happening. Now those who will be investing in the people, because you are hearing His Excellency the Deputy President talking about the bottom of the economy.
Yes.
I mean, means empowering the law of the lowest.
Yes.
To be able to be capacitated as far as their business are concerned, so that Kenya will now start using what has been laid down by His Excellency the President.
Okay.
Yes, it is painful, but
yes,
it's something that we must undertake as a country.
Absolutely. Let me just bring in Simeha here to wrap it up briefly. Simeha, it's quite open that yes, we have to borrow, but then development must also happen. And as Dr. Rotich has put it, it's just temporary. As we put it, ni kwa muda tu. So at the end of the day, we will see the results probably for the next couple of years to come. Are you buying the same idea?
Not at all, Victor. I don't agree with that is Dr. Rotich's observation, that's Dr. Rotich's opinion. Mine is different. In the sense that COVID-19 found a bad situation economically in this country. It found a very bad situation from 2013. The only thing I agree with Dr. Rotich is that the Raila Kibaki government, previous government, from 2003 when they came into government, there was a bit of disruption 2007-8, but then again it picked up to 2012, early 13. You could see the results of a semblance of good economic management. But immediately this government of Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto took over, we began to see things going south. Yes. That has been my observation. That remains my observation, that yes, it is very good to see these large infrastructure projects and so on and so forth happening. But then when you fail to see the masses empowered to take advantage of these projects, then for me it is gloom. Because I'm very happy with and I agree with what he's saying. Wonderful to have SGR, wonderful to have good road. I confirm that I drive on a good road from Nairobi to Western and so on. But how many of us can take advantage of that good road? So these things have to happen simultaneously with good governance that brings in the masses of the people to participate in economic production, in economic activities. But if you leave out, because of bad governance, a lot of people are cut out. Corruption squeezes out so many people from participation in economic productivity. Then only a few participate and take advantage of those wonderful projects that Dr. Rotich is talking about. So right now, my observation is a huge percentage of Kenyans are suffering economically because of poor management of the economy and because of runaway corruption in our country. And they won't be able in any time soon to take advantage of those wonderful projects that we are talking about. You can put in place brick and mortar, but unless you also work on the softer issues, unless you also work on issues like corruption, unless you also work on good governance, and unless you also work on what has been talked about, bringing the country together, national unity, so that we are pulling in the same direction, I do not think you achieve what Dr. Rotich is saying we will achieve in a short while. So I beg to differ, and that is my observation.
Absolutely. And I can see Dr. Masanga is trying to nod in disagreement with you. I don't know what you have to say, Dr. Masanga.
Today, I woke up on the right side, and the right-hand side of Adam Smith. If Adam Smith came to Kenya and saw Simeka speak the way he's speaking, I think he would die twice. I agree entirely with Rotich. Today, this morning, infrastructure is the basis of any development. If you don't have infrastructure, if you have no infrastructure, forget. You know, Simeka is talking about corruption. Those are secondary. Those are secondary issues. We can manage them later. We can put laws. We are doing BBI. But what Rotich has said is true. The Jubilee government took over projects that were supposed to be completed, that Simeka group left. Don't forget who Simeka is. I know him very well, where he belongs. And I am not going to sit here to allow him to harm a Jubilee government. No. Shmeha, it is true. You left us projects. And I'm not going to take any prisoner here. You left projects. You expected Uhuru to do what? To leave them rot? Uhuru had to borrow in order to complete the project. Rotich is correct. 2, who is not suffering? Show me one country in the world which is not suffering. Show me. Show me one country. Even in Britain, you are talking of 2 million people not employed. In Britain, 80 million. And the figure is going up. And these are people who can demonstrate and ban the palace. They can, anytime they can come and ban the Queen's palace. You are talking of 2 million. There are 20 million people not employed because of COVID. So, on this one this morning, the Jubilee government had to complete the project. Money had to be borrowed. There is no country that does not borrow. Even in Britain, where I am, borrows. IMF quietly. But because it has a social infrastructure, you can't see they have borrowed. So let's not deceive our people that the borrowing is bad. We are bad off. Yes, mismanagement. So may I come back on your side? I'll give you a note there. Mismanagement of funds, yes. Accountability of funds, yes. Brother, you knock the point there. If we fight corruption, we shall prevent the funds being cheated, taken away by a few individuals. And for anybody who wants to do the economy after Uhuru Kenyatta, my friend Uhuru Kenyatta, the Pan-African, has gone. And I want to be candid and happy to be associated with him. That when he leaves, you need the structure, whether he's up, bottom, up, whatever. I have heard some words, up, bottom, up, I don't know. Simeha will tell me he's an economist and a rotic. But you need those infrastructure in order to transport your goods, in order Wanjiku to take the goods. You will need Uhuru's legacy.
Okay, all right.
Tuambiane ukweli jameni, Afrika tunataka tuambiane ukweli.
Okay, Daktari. On that note, it's quite evident that it has to be either way. We have to borrow and we don't have to borrow. But one thing that you've talked about is that, yes, we must borrow, but accountability and prudent use of resources is quite fundamental. And, you know, corruption has been dotting this country for quite a long time. And President Uhuru Kenyatta has also put that spirited effort to make sure that victims and culprits are brought to book. Okay, gentlemen, let's talk about, we have a guest today coming in Kenya, and my colleague just talked about it in the last hour with one Honorable Tibaijuka, but we can never have enough of this conversation. Let me start with you, Dr. Rotich. What do you take out of this one? She is in the country in the next few hours for the next 2 days. What do you think is going to be most important for her and then Kenya in general and Tanzania?
I think, Victor, what we are looking forward to, of course, Samia, when she took over,
yes,
by the time she was actually being, when she was being sworn in, it is like Kenyans were watching their president being sworn in. I mean, there is a very strong relationship that Kenya and the East Africa in general would wish to have. Why am I using the word would wish to have is because of the kind of relationship that we have had with Tanzania under His Excellency the late Makupa.
Yes.
You can remember very well, Victor, that about 6,000 chicks were burned alive in the protest that was going to spread the flu. And then there has been a lot of slow movement in and out of our borders between Tanzania and Kenya. We have seen also trucks which could spend several hours at the border, not being cleared. So all these are indications that our relationship has not been smooth. So the coming of Her Excellency Suluhu to Kenya is a very positive indication, and it will indicate so many things.
Yeah.
As far as the bilateral relationship is concerned, our economic development in East Africa, and more so between us and Tanzania, it is actually, I mean, Kenyans are hoping that we are going to build that strong relationship where Kenyans will move freely to Tanzania without any hitch, where Tanzanians will move to Kenya without any hitch, and then we look at our tariffs, because if we have our tariffs right, lower our tariffs, so to enable our people to have that kind of bilateral, trade relationship without any hitch. So in this case, we Kenyans have a lot of hope. And there's another additional thing, Victor, that we have to look at it. The political perception that we have. Her Excellency Suluhu is the only female president in Africa as we are talking today.
Yes.
So in this case, why Kenyans were so much elated during the swearing in of this great lady was because we have had the gender issues for many years in this country. We have had affirmative action that has elevated the female leadership in this country to the level where we are now.
Yes.
And we are proud as Kenyans that the ladies can now dominate the very important positions in our country of leadership. And I've been watching the trend of this thing. Go to the Judiciary today, Victor. Look at the formation of all the heads of departments. You may be surprised that majority, almost 70, 80%, or even not 90, are ladies. And in this case, if Kome will win the day with the kind of smooth transition that is going on now, I think we are going to have a judiciary that is led by female. And I've been also watching what the development that has been happening elsewhere. I think very soon we shall have an affirmative action to protect the boy child, because that is the trend that we are moving. So very soon we shall remove this word affirmative and maybe open up for a democratic competitive process that our men and women will compete on equal basis without really looking at the gender or affirmative action to protect some particular group.
Absolutely.
So in this case, Kenyans are proud of her, and they are looking forward that with a positive startup, we have heard she has talked a lot about the COVID-19 pandemic, and now Tanzanians are awake to the reality that it is real, it is there. And once we had, because we had the border problems where Tanzanians under Magufuli, they were not respecting the issues to do with them, people being tested before they crossed the border. But this time around, you can see the Suluhu actually is very positive and very, very keen to see that Tanzania is actually brought to the power of those people who are fighting the pandemic. So in this case, we are hoping as Kenyans that good things will happen.
Absolutely. Let me just bring in Simeha here. Simeha, your thoughts on that? She is due to jet into the country for the next 2 days. What do you think is quite important is going to be on top of her agenda as she visits Kenya for the first time just slightly over a month after she took over her office?
Thank you, Victor. I think what is important is for us to reflect on the similarities and differences between ourselves and the nation of Tanzania. And it boils down to what I was saying earlier. When you look at the foundation of our nation that Mwalimu Julius Nyerere left in Tanzania, and you compare that to what we have as a foundation, I'm hoping that one of these days I'll persuade all of you, including David Mathanga, that we are building all these huge infrastructure projects on quicksand. These are things we can bring down in one day because we are not yet a nation in Kenya. Because we all don't see those projects as our projects. There are millions of Kenyans, as compared to Tanzania, who are going to see, but already are seeing those projects as Uhuru Kenyatta's projects and William Ruto's projects. Why? Complete breakdown of national trust. Those things are important for development. That foundation that Tanzania has built, as established by Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, defining who they are, and I admire them for basing who they are on the African philosophy of Utu, which is one of the things, by the way, David Mathanga, that we have put in BBI policy, that we need to think as Kenyans, as President Suluhu comes around. Do we know who we are as a nation? Have we defined ourselves as a nation? Or are we just Kikuyu, Luya, Luo, Somali, and so on and so forth? Those things are important for development. Otherwise, you have those huge projects, but you have a largely dying population, a largely illiterate population, breakdown in the education system, a breakdown in public service and public administration, looting governors left, right, and center, and looting national executive, etc., etc. So as she comes here, for me, those are the lessons I'm hoping we pick up. And as our government engages with her and her delegation, those are some of the things we can borrow from Tanzania. I fear that although the late John Joseph Pombe Magufuli was building on that foundation, he was sadly, in my humble opinion, beginning to break down some of the building stones. Because that foundation is not inconsistent with having a democratic society, a competitive society, a pluralist society with a free press. They go together, a foundation of Utu, African philosophy of Utu, African solutions to African problems. And that's why I'm reluctant to take Masanga's invitation to compare ourselves to Britain. I'm not even interested in, I know it's important to compare, but in terms of whether we are doing well, developed or not, I'm not even interested in comparing ourselves to Britain. I want us to compare ourselves to what we can be. And we can only know what we can be if we sit as a nation, have a conversation, and look at our history, see where we are coming from, and then define where we want to go.
Yes.
That we can borrow from what Mwalimu Nyerere did. Not that he was faultless, he had his faults, but he did an incredible job in terms of building the foundation for a cohesive society in which people trust each other. Now, President Suluhu, with the promotion of freedoms, democratic ideals, given the signs we are seeing, press freedom and so on, will hopefully now continue building on that foundation, because you can build on that foundation without suppressing people like John Joseph Pombe Magufuli was doing. You can develop a country without suppressing dissent, without oppressing people. And that is what I hope, as we engage with the president of Tanzania, we can pick those lessons. And finally, agreeing with what Rotich said, it is a lot more important for us as African nations, beginning with East Africa, including Congo, including Ethiopia, Somalia, Sudan, South Sudan, to trade with each other, to develop trading and social relationships with each other. We will develop faster than these relationships we have with our exploiters. They are past exploiters, they are still present exploiters. And I'm not suggesting that we cut off relationships with them. I am proposing that we prioritize relationships with African countries. Then, Masanga, that is going to be true Pan-Africanism. But not when we cheat each other, but then we want a better relationship with Britain or the USA or Germany. Those are good friends of ours, but let them be secondary friends. Let us develop relationships with African countries first.
All right, absolutely. And Dr. Masanga, you've just heard what Dr. Rotich and Sime have just talked about. What do you think are some of the diplomatic ties that we should expect from now moving forward, having in mind that she went to Uganda and signed a deal with the Uganda that they are going to have an oil pipeline from Uganda to Tanzania, and now she's going to be in Kenya for her first visit as the president. In terms of diplomatic ties, what should we expect? Briefly, Daktari.
Thank you very much. I will hit my points, and I agree with Simeka. As a Pan-African, I want an integrated Africa. An Africa that trades with itself without barriers. As a Pan-African, I want an African that talks not violence, but peace. Tanzania is endowed with peace. Tanzania think together, they have a social contract. Mr. Law, the only country in Africa that has a social contract is Tanzania. They have a social contract. They listen to their leaders. I grew up in Tanzania in 78, 79, when we were fighting Idi Amin Dada. I learned part of the philosophy of the Tanzanian people. I have huge friends across back there in Tanzania. But they are all united. Even when their government is doing something which is not right, they will come to voice it without violence. That's one thing I agree with Simeka. Let's learn from them today. Are we united in Kenya? Are we united in Uganda? Are we united in Rwanda? Although, as we sit here today, 3 of us and 4 of us in the studio, there is a looming war between Uganda and Rwanda. A very huge war. Simeka knows. For 2 years, The border between Uganda and Rwanda has not been opened. And the people are threatening, generals themselves, the two are threatening each other. I believe Madame Suluhu, being a lady president in East Africa, please, Your Excellency, I've already communicated something to the Minister of Foreign Affairs in Tanzania. Try to ease that pressure so that we don't have a war. Point number 3, the question of trade. These small hiccups at the border. You want to go to Tanzania, your passport is, as a Kenyan, is scrutinized more than the passport of a Ugandan called Matanga. That attitude should end. Kenyans are scrutinized more in Tanzania than Ugandans. I went with a Kenyan friend in the Dar es Salaam airport. He was stopped, and I waited for him after my luggage. I picked his luggage. They were looking at his passport. I came back, I said, Jamen, ndugu zangu, shida gani? Oh, tulikuwa na tunazungumza hapa. No, I said, no, this is an East African passport. So those small things that bring up and break up states will be solved. Another point is the question of women. I am very happy that you interviewed my colleague, a very humble lady of Africa called Professor Tibaijuka. This lady is a Pan-African. When people wanted to take Mugabe to the Hague for dismantling shanties in Harare, Tibaijuka stood firm Pan-African as a head of habitant and said, no, we need such people. Tanzanians are hardworking people. Madame Suluhu will bring hope to Kenya. We'll learn something. Lastly, I hope she's also going to learn how to manage COVID-19. That's the elephant in the house.
Okay.
And let's be honest, hakuna kubembeleshana hapa. Sisi tunataka siasa ikuwe ya amani. Siasa ya amani. Tulete amani. Tutagana. So let's get clear. She has also to learn from the Kenyan counterparts.
Yes.
The Ministry of Health, the models. Let Tanzania learn what type of models the Ministry of Health in Kenya have used to contain a disease. Because although this disease, if you contain it in Kenya, and you contain it in Uganda, and you have not contained it in Tanzania, you can't stop Tanzanians coming to Vihiga. In fact, Vihiga is very near there, where my friend has been hiding in the banana plantations there. It's very near Tanzania. So
Simeka, you'll have to defend yourself that you've been. You'll have to defend yourself that you've been hiding in Vihiga. Dr. Masanga, let me just hold on. Dr. In 1 minute, let me just take a commercial break. The director says that we have to pay some bills, and then we come back. Simeka will tell us why he's been hiding in Vihiga. That is a good one. Let's take a short break, gentlemen. This is just it. We have just started, and you know what? We still have so much more just after the break, so you don't have to go far away as I take my tea. You know, this is Good Morning Kenya. You can also take yours. We'll be right back in a short while. Stay with us.
Je, umeomoka? Kama hujaomoka kwenye QuickBin ndio mambo yote. Hapa tuko na fridge, kodi yake ni CM. Tuko na gas cooker, kodi yake ni CK. Tuko na TV, kodi yake ni TV. Tuko na simu aina ya Samsung ni SM, ama Oppo ni Oppo. My friend, mahali popote unanitizama, eka hizo kodi zake kisha utume kwa 4032353. 4032353. Alafu utakuwa unaomoka na hizi bidhaa. Kumbuka, kwenye QuickWin ni bidhaa bora zaidi kwa bei ya chini kwa chini.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Not today! I am out to do justice today! I have to avenge Acharya Chanakya's death!
By wielding the sword act, His Majesty Ashok has committed a crime. And the punishment for that is death penalty.
Don't stop!
Ashok! Move aside, father!
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
No, of course not. If you're thinking that I'm pregnant, then you're mistaken.
Okay, don't get upset, Cons. I was only asking, nothing more.
I knew it. It's her all along. Your godmother and I were supposed to talk about Lucrecia tonight. We both came to the conclusion that Lucrecia had used Emma in order to get rid of you.
I want to be completely sincere with you. I still hope against all odds that Florencia will show up.
Unichukulie kwa mfano ndani ya matatu.
Yaani mtu mzima na miaka zake hizo miaka zote. Mtu ajui kujua kuandika note. Note tu peke yake. Kusoma kweli itasaidia.
Nini nakusumbua na nini?
Nauliza, ni bwana?
Don't you dare insult me, okay?
Mama Angel,
Don't you dare.
Haya, kwani ni vita? Nini wewe? Yaani wataka kumpiga? Huwezi mpika, mpige nini?
Welcome back. This is People and Politics on KBC Channel 1. Straight to to Joseph Simeha. Joseph, you've been accused that you've been hiding in Vihiga. We must ask you this question. Have you been hiding in Vihiga? And even as you answer that question, let's talk about the uncertainty that continues to surround the fate of the BBI, even as Parliament resumes its sittings after recess. And now it seems that Senate is caught between a rock and a hard place, whether to agree on some of the typographical errors and some of the thorny issues in the bill. Your take on that? First of all, have you been hiding in Vihiga?
Thank you very much, Victor. Well, people who are used to living in cities, when they see us enjoying life where we belong, where we have been born and raised, when they see us enjoying life, they think we are hiding. These banana plantations are part of us. Actually, yes, these banana plantations are part of us and are part of what we must build in the spirit of devolution, because we want to build Kenya, we want to build Africa. We have to begin by building the hitherto neglected places. We have to be here in Vihiga, in Kakamega, in Garissa, to ensure that the governors who are looting our resources, are held to account. We are not able to do that effectively when we are in Nairobi. Nairobi is important as a link and as a capital, but we achieve a lot more here in Vihiga when we interact with people, when we are able to quickly access information on what the looters are doing in the county government of Vihiga. So Masanga, that's what we are doing. We are building even many, many more banana plantations for people to leave London, and please come Come and you'll enjoy life better in Vihiga after we remove the bad governance that we have in the county just now. So that's what we are doing. We are not hiding. Secondly, Victor, thank you for that question. Yes, you say it's a dilemma, but you know, as I think I've mentioned to you a couple of times, I feel that there are people in our political establishment who are behaving like they've just discovered things. They've just discovered the contents of BBI. They behave like they've not been in this country since 2019. The things they are criticizing in the BBI constitutional amendment bill, and I agree with them. I agree with the criticism. Those things have been there and they've known those things since that bill became public, pre-Bomas. If you remember the Bomas launch. People who are concerned, and I will give credit to William Samoei Ruto. If you listened to him at Bomas, the kind of noise he made in the midst of all that opposition and booing and so on. But the way in which he stood firm and said, I disagree with 1, 2, 3, 4, we need to add in 1, 2, 3, 4. That is the time these good friends of ours should have done the same. They knew about these contents that was sneaked into this bill and into the other parts of the BBI document. They ought to have spoken. Someone like Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga shouldn't speak, given his position and Uhuru Kenyatta's position. They will more approach each other diplomatically. They don't have to shout at each other in the open. But there are people who have a lot more freedom to say these things in public, including our MPs. They did not. Some of them, when a few of us talked about it, you know, insulted us. When we talked about strange things in the report, they insulted us. They insulted Major John, retired Say, when he said that some strange things are now in the report that they were made to sign.
Yes.
Where are these people coming from? I agree with the fact that some of the content is suspect. I completely agree with that. But then look where we are in the stages, in the stages of constitutional amendment. Look how far we've gone. Can you now begin to argue about changing it? Sadly, because this is a process of negotiation, and some people are outsmarted others, sadly we have to move with it. Either the whole thing falls at the referendum, or the whole thing goes through at the referendum. And inshallah, we should have an opportunity. Why I feel optimistic about this BBI is that we are just at the beginning. If we really take it as it is, if we stop imagining that BBI is not all about that constitutional amendment bill only, if we only took time to understand, read the report, both the task force report and the steering committee report, and understand that we have a policy section with tremendous proposals and suggestions and recommendations. We have a legislative section with tremendous recommendations. We have an administrative section with tremendous recommendations. If we get good leadership, because this all depends on good leadership and governance, if at the next elections we get good leadership and not all these noises being made by wannabes and so on, we must get good radical leadership. Then we have an opportunity to have a truly national conversation in Kenya, which will include all those suspect things, the BBI amendment bill. So I think Parliament, both Senate and National Assembly, should spare us the drama, either reject or pass what they have been given. Let it go to the people. Let the people either reject or pass, but I'm hoping before that we have a proper national civic education process for people to understand what is in that bill. Then we go to the referendum. After that, people should also be preparing themselves to elect a good leadership. Then BBA can have meaning for us. But right now, way too early, way too early. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let me just bring in Dr. here in studio, Dr. Otich. Simeh has talked up something about civic education, that much as the legislators are talking about this and that, at the end of the day, you still have to go to the Wanjiku. People will have to go to the referendum. So, according to Simeka, civic education is key here. Are you buying the same idea?
I think, Victor, before we discuss about the civic education, look at the whole scenario of discussion, be it in the national government, be it in Senate, confusion all over.
Yes.
And not only that, our leadership are confused. Even the document is confused. The document that finally went to the county governments to be voted, we are told that 13 of them were right. I mean, 13 county governments voted for the right document. The rest voted for the wrong ones. The argument that there are things that were sneaked into the document is still buying, and my friend is agreeing that there are some issues that was never in the first draft, but it was sneaked in afterwards. That we all agree it is there. Now, you can remember, my friend, during the discussion of our parliament, the senators asked for more than 2-3 hours to read the document. This is the document that we believe it just came from them. They were not even aware about the document itself, leave alone discussing on the document, but they never knew about the document. They had to be given hours to go and read so that they can come back and deliberate on. Now, in the whole scenario, when shall we have time to educate or carry out the civic education to the 47 million Kenyans?
Yes.
And we still have the same referendum come July or August. Is the time frame really enough for us? So in this case, the best way that these people should have actually pursued was the way of consensus. So that whatever is being discussed in Parliament, as we are talking now, should not have gone to the public before it is digested. We should have ironed out these issues. When you see Orengo discussing about why don't we, I mean, I can see a lot of stubbornness, Victor, across the board. You see in the Jubilee, you see in the ODM, people are discussing across the board on issues that pertains this document. And the only way, and it is the best time that these people would have come up and say, please let us all agree, we remove these issues, we adopt these issues, so that as we go to the referendum, we go to the referendum as a united people. But look at what is happening now. Whatever is happening in our parliaments will be replicated at the grassroots level. It will be politics all through. So by refusing to adopt the changes here, what will happen there? The Kenyans may end up rejecting a document which has got 95% goodies. But are we going to benefit in any way? No. So our arrogance of approach to this document is what will spoil us in the end.
Yes.
We should all agree, we should all come on board. But of course the issue, of course, that the Constitution says this is a popular initiative. And it cannot be amended in Parliament. So that is another undoing. If it is not amended, if it is not amendable in Parliament, then let it go as it is. What is the point of jostling all over? They should have voted day one and leave it to go. So if the parliamentarians will not add value in the document, what is their business of discussing over a document that they have no, they will not put up anything. So in this case, I think Kenyans must come to terms and say, yes, this is our document. It will improve our lives. It will go a long way in solving our myriad of problems that we are facing in every electioneering year. Yes, it is our document. Can we do what is good for us? Can we improve on it? It means our own document. So we must be able to do what is right before we take it to the people. Okay. So whichever way people are seeing, I think we need a good document.
We need a good document. Let me bring in Dr. Masanga here. Dr. Masanga, as we speak, it seems that both houses are discussing two different documents. So what does it portend? What does it portend to the document itself on the BBI? Are we discussing two different documents here? If I bring in Dr. Masanga, is BBI in limbo?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Are you there?
We are there.
Yes. Continue, Dr.
Yes. First of all, I want to tell the world and the Kenyans, and I believe Smeka and Dr. Rotich will agree with me for the last time today, that I studied conflict resolution. I'm an expert in healing wounds, conflicts. BBI with 90 points is called a redemption strategy. Semeka, am I right or not?
You're right. Thank you.
Yes.
But
Okay.
it's more than that. Yeah.
And I've told the Kenyans, you know the problem all is this. When you are black and you have studied your smaller degrees here and there, Africans don't like you. They want a Mzungu. If it was a Mzungu talking of redemption strategy, the entire governments in Africa will rush to hire him, but not you. Semea, you have suffered the same like I have suffered. Yet it is we who know more where it pains. BBI is a redemption strategy. What is redemption? Accountability, truth-telling, reconciliation, reparation, restitution, and then the final word comes, healing. Then you can go for your elections. What I would do is to boycott both we use no destroy the Soviet Union. I don't want my good friend, the brother, Pan-African president to go with the word perestroika. Gorbachev is never like nobody wants to look at him. He helped the disintegration of the Soviet Union. We have already created what we call glasnost. Let's move on. Let Kenyans understand this document. I have wrote it. This document is a good thing, but we might lose it. We might lose it. You have done political process or have turned into a political process instead of a healing process. Raila wanted to heal this country from violence. Uhuru wanted to heal this country from violence. Now we are coming back to the same thing why we created BBI. Each are not seeing. This group is not talking to each other. The parties, I warned you last week in our show, Oro. Didn't I tell you about Orengo? If there is a man who knows Matanga, because we're about the same age, he beats me by a few years. I know James so well, and I told you, Orengo has two sides. Orengo is an NGO and a good lawyer. For me, I don't hesitate telling the truth. And disclaimer comes to Matanga. He's my comrade. He always also tells me the truth. He's an NGO and a good lawyer. Now, somewhere, Orengo sees an NGO syndrome in him. I don't want to say more than that. He is coming up with this thing too. Didn't he see? He's a member of the committee in parliament. Didn't he see these things? Now, finally, let's come to the elephant in the house. Oro, east, west, north, south. There is one article that defeats all of you. All these lawyers in the parliament, they can talk up to heaven. Oh, hell. You can talk up to hell if you want. But there's one article that finishes you. And that is Article 257. Section 4, 5, 10, and 11. Simeka, 0, zip. There is nothing you can do. You can even go and fall in a river, Suswa, and come back and say I'm wet, but nothing will happen.
Okay.
Just do what the Constitution or law says. Why do we make constitutions and shrink them? The biggest problem of Africa is the shrinkage of constitution. We make constitutions, then we start eating them. Simeka knows. There are leaders in Africa who are eating. They eat the constitution. Wanakula kula kidogo, paka wanamaliza, it remains a skeleton. Why are we shrinking the constitution here? The Constitution of the Republic of Kenya says Article 257 is supremo. When it comes to the people's initiative, there is nothing. Article 10, Article 257, Section 10, Clause 10 says if it does that, if it fails, then go and put it to the referendum. You don't come back towards implementation.
Yes.
Is key. When it comes back, now Simeka expert, friend of mine comes now and looks as a bill an omnibus bill has been passed, but it has problems. Now let's look at this omnibus bill. The parliament can sit down and change a few of those things that they feel they are not happy with. But for now, for now, Simek, and don't give people a chance that they should go around telling people that we have seen something wrong here. No. If I were Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta, wacha watu waamue. Wacha watu waamue. People are fed up in Kenya. People are hungry. People are under COVID.
All right.
You are bringing them all this jargon. Go to court. You, pass the bill.
Right. Thank you, Dr.
No.
Thank
pass
you.
the bill and go to court.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Thank you so much, Dr. You have made your point. Simeha, I will give you your time to respond to that in a little while. But let me come back to Dr. Rotich in studio. Probably your final your last words on this as we come to a close of to this debate here, Dr.
I think what we need to do, Victor, I can see a true democracy in the current discussion, where you see people from both sides of the divide in our political ideologies coming together, discussing together on issues that touches on them.
Yes.
So when you talk of Rengo or Tiende, I can see brains, I can see bright guys, I can see people who have what to say, substantive issues that we don't have to ignore. Those in the Jubilee, those in the ODM, talking to one another, discussing on issues that touches on Kenyans. It is a very healthy kind of discussion. And I long to see a situation whereby they would have a consensus today or tomorrow when they'll be voting. Implement some changes, if it is possible, so that we go to a referendum when we already have a consensus on what we want, so that we don't lose a document that is so good. We don't want to allow a situation, because we even don't have time to enable the public to discuss on these things once it goes to referendum. You know very well that civic education has not been done. We may not be able to have time. Even up to today, as we are talking, Victor, majority of Kenyans don't have these copies. They have not seen them. They are only hearing in the media that there is one that was wrong, there is one that was right. They are only hearing. They have not read through those things.
Yes.
Now you have a whole 1 month or 2 months to implement. Now we are heading to the month of June. We have only 2 months. How long are we going to take to carry out civic education to the Republic, to the people of Kenya? When it is, of course, it is a right to them. They have to make informed choices when it comes to referendum. How can they make informed choices if they have not read the document? How will they explain what they don't know? How can they vote with what they don't know? So it is a high time we consider so that the better we finish with Parliament early, the better we start the civic education, so that people will vote for something or a document that they know and that they are aware of. Yeah. So I want to ask Kenyans that it is a high time we remain sober during this time of referendum.
Okay. Thank you.
Civic education will go a long way in helping us to understand the document.
Absolutely.
And let us go to the referendum when we are well aware of what is contained in that document. Okay. Don't vote to a document just because somebody has brought it to you. Yes. Vote to a document that you are aware of, you have understood, and you are voting for something that you know, because that is your document.
Civic education is a key word here. Thank you so much, Daktari. Joseph Simeha, just to give you a minute to have your last word on this. What do you say in terms of civic? You talked about civic education. We are not going to dwell on that. So just give us your last word as we wind up this show.
Thank you very much. But it's worth emphasizing that yes, mistakes have been made in terms of reaching out to the people and enabling them to have informed engagement on what not only this bill but the entire content of the BBI initiative. Those forces that have made this difficult have been very unfair to Kenyans. And I'm saying this deliberately, that there are forces that have made it difficult for Kenyans to have copies of the report, as Rotich is saying, to have copies of the bill. Those forces, some of them are known, but why they are doing this, I personally have no idea. They've been unfair to Kenyans, but it's not too late to have a thorough civic education process, which we need for informed decision-making. In terms of content, I sympathize with Rotich. I hear what he's saying, but no, it's not possible. It's way late to talk about reopening the content. And even those who are saying they are right on content, on substance, but they are wrong on strategy. I agree with them on substance of what they are raising, Otiende Amolo, Orengo, and so on. But strategy, unfortunately, in my opinion, too late, too little, too late. We have to rethink these things so that we make sure we rectify those things that they are complaining about. And finally, Victor, just two things very finally.
Sure.
The problem is not borrowing. The problem is borrowing and stealing 70% of what we have borrowed and then 25% to the so-called development. Not the borrowing itself, no, but we borrow and steal even before the money arrives in Kenya. 75% is gone. Then 25% is what we commit to development. Finally, this one is for Matsanga as a Pan-Africanist. I would like him to speak to African presidents, as he does, I know he does, about the Malabo Protocol. And you'll see, Victor, why it's relevant to what we are discussing now. Yes. The Malabo Protocol is an agreement of the African Union to amend the statute of the African Court on Human and People's Rights to give it a criminal jurisdiction so that we can have our own court here in Africa dealing with criminal issues of abuse of rights and so on and so forth, so that we don't keep talking about going to The Hague. But guess what? Since this decision was made by the AU in Malabo, in Equatorial Guinea in 2014, shamefully, only 14 African countries have signed on to it. Yet we need minimum 15 to sign and ratify. 0 have ratified. Can Africa really develop when we have that kind of governance? We complain about this wazungu, but when we have an opportunity to do it for ourselves, we don't do it. From 2014 to 2021, Masanga, can we speak to African leaders to sign and ratify the Malabo Protocol? It is part of development. Justice is part of development. Thank you, Victor.
Victor, can I have my last minute? Victor?
Yes, Masanga.
Can I have my last minute?
Sure, yes, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much, viewers. Wherever you are in the world, I agree with Mr. Smega. The Malabo Agreement was supposed to be imposed, passed. President Uhuru Kenyatta paid $1 million. You remember yourself, in African Union for the African Court of Justice. My brothers in Africa, we have very dangerous people. They have divided themselves into groups. That is a topic maybe Oro will bring us back here, Victor. We hammer it down. But let me come back to the BBI. Kenya, and I repeat, Kenya cannot do any election.
Yes.
And let it go down. You will not do a peaceful election.
Okay.
If you have not done the BBI.
Yes, Dr. Thank you.
The Electoral Commission.
Dr. I'm sorry, I have to cut you short. We are about to go to the Senate. I'm sorry, we have just to end it there. We have 15 minutes past the hour. All right. Thank you so much for your time. There you have it. That is Justice Ndumanderi already facing the JSC for the position of the judge of the Court of Appeal, Supreme Court. That is happening now. Thereafter, Daktari, that is Patrick Lumumba, will also join later on at 11 a.m. So that is happening right now at the Judicial Service Commission. There you have it. Okay, so that brings us to a close of this show, particular day on Tuesday, where we expect President Samia Suluhu to visit Kenya in the next 2 days. And of course, tomorrow she will be addressing the joint parliament at 2:30 p.m. here in Kenya. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Victor Lo, and on behalf of the entire crew who made this show an amazing one, and to our guests, thank you so much for joining us. Let's do this again tomorrow. My name is Victor Lo. Have a good morning. Bye-bye.
For the issues, and even when I do not get support on my points, I am very gracious and in accepting the other people's point of view. I think this is critical in building collegiality at the Supreme Court, because as judges, we need to be friends. We need to be professional. And generally, we need to have a good face. Kenyans need to see a unified court. Kenyans need to have confidence in us as a court which determines very, very weighty issues as and when called upon to do so. I think I am very able in that respect. I've demonstrated that over the years, and I think I'll be able to do that if given opportunity to.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll now request the acting CJ to continue with the questions.
Thank you. My Lord, the court you aspire to join as both original and appellate jurisdiction, kindly describe to us the various aspects of original jurisdiction, and on appellate, please tell us how a litigant would approach the court.
Thank you, Madam Commissioner. The Supreme Court has got original jurisdiction in adjudicating election disputes regarding the president of the country under Article 140 of the Constitution. So the court entertains petitions with regard to presidential electoral disputes, and in that respect, parties come by way of petitions direct to the court. The court also has got original jurisdiction with regard to references and advisory giving advisory opinions which are sought by the national government, state organs, county governments, and in that respect also the court has original jurisdiction. The court has got appellate jurisdiction. On all matters coming from the Court of Appeal to do with the application or interpretation of the Constitution as of right. And it also has got the appellate jurisdiction on matters coming from the Court of Appeal on matters which have been certified to be of general public importance, in which respect those ones will require certification either by the Court of Appeal itself or by the Supreme Court itself. So they have a concurrent jurisdiction in that.